So can you describe kind of your evolutionary process between being a car dealer for 6-7 years and then kind of putting yourself into real estate? How did that kind of transition?
The flip and the flop.
Yeah, sure. I made the decision one day that, again, I didn't want to work retail hours. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I sold the dealership in 2016. I co-authored a book with my best friend, 𝗭𝗍 𝗏𝗡𝗏 on crushing mediocrity. And, I went on a speaking tour. I've got an agent in New York. So, we were booked like crazy to speak. We help sales organizations, or we did help sales organizations to get unstuck. Because, I had a team that broke the world sales record. 𝗭𝗍 was one of the top women in aviation, still is, in the world. And, and we knew that we had done what we had done by breaking glass ceilings, but really doing things differently and having a different mindset. So, I did that for about 4 years. And then, like many people, it got derailed, and it got derailed by COVID. And the crazy part to the whole thing is, like, I was booked out. I mean, I had millions of dollars in contracts between consulting and speaking, and it all came to a screeching halt on March 18th of 2020. Like, you have those dates that you are never going to forget. That would be one for me. And I was in Chicago, and I was on stage. I was the closing keynote for Atlas Moving Lines. And so it was a global conference, and I was the closing keynote. I was going to spend the night, and then I had a meeting with all of their execs the next morning to do some consulting work for them. And the meeting planner came to me at the end of my speech, and she's like, "You're going home tonight." And I'm like, "Oh God, did I mess up? Did they hate me?" She's like, No. She said, "But Chicago's getting ready to go onto lockdown in the morning. And if we don't get you out of here tonight, you're gonna get stuck here. And we don't know if you're gonna get stuck here for a day, a week, a month." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I remember getting to Chicago O'Hare Airport. They had a car waiting for me. Literally, they walked me off stage into a town car and onto the airport. They already had moved my flights and everything. And I get into Chicago O'Hare, and people are in masks and gloves and hazmat suits. I mean, not really, but it may as well have been hazmat suits. And I'm there with like nothing. And I was just like, I thought I had walked into the apocalypse. Like I was so, because we know that it didn't, it was hitting major cities before it hit us here, especially in Central Texas. So we had heard about it, but I don't think we understood the magnitude of it until it came home, but it wasn't home yet. And so, I just get on the plane, and I remember calling my husband, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I've literally walked into the apocalypse. I hope I get home." I mean, my anxiety has never been higher than being on that airplane leaving Chicago O'Hare. So within the next week or so, my agent called me, and he's like, "We're canceled. I'm like, "Oh my God," like 34 speaking gigs. And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, this is like, they're shutting us down for 2 weeks. Why are these meeting planners canceling?" And he's like, "Oh, this is bigger than 2 weeks." And he's in New York, and he's a pretty smart guy. He's like, "This is way bigger than 2 weeks. I promise you." So, like many people, I was like, "Okay, well, I've just lost several $1 million, or postponed, or whatever that looks like." And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? And y'all, I literally said, okay, I own a mortgage company, which GeorgetownMortgage.com, if you need a mortgage. I've owned it for about 22 years. I've been a car dealer. I owned an insurance company. Like, the only thing I haven't done literally is have a real estate license. And I thought, well, I own a mortgage company, so I'll just, I'll take this time off, and I'll get my real estate license. And I don't know what I'll do with it. And maybe my speaking gigs will pick up again. So I went and did it. So the first thing I would tell the audience that's listening, like, when there is adversity, take action. Okay, I don't care what that action is, but take action to move forward. So I took action, and I went and got a real estate license, not even knowing whether I would ever use it or not. And then I get the license, and my agent calls me, and he says, "Hey, do you know Tarek El Moussa from HGTV?" And I said, "I do not." And he said, "Well, we manage him also." And we managed another guy by the name of Haas Pratt, who I did know, who wrote a book called The Listing Boss, and it was a bestseller. And, and they want to talk to you. They want to meet with you. Tarek is starting this real estate dynasty. He wants you to be a part of it. And I was like, all right. So literally, y'all, we were on such lockdown at that point. I printed the email that they sent me to tell me where to go in Dallas. And I took it with me in my car down 35 because at that point, only essential workers were supposed to be out. So if I got pulled over, I wanted them to know, because real estate's considered, or was considered essential worker in Texas. And I went and met with them, and their vision, Tarek and Haas, their vision was to build the largest real estate team globally on planet Earth, to help others build generational wealth. And so, I could really get behind the purpose and behind the mission. Real estate was just a byproduct of what we would do. So we would help these other people build empires through selling real estate. And so I absolutely just was in love with it. I just loved them. And so that was 2.5 years ago. And we are still going strong and loving life. I think I've got 6 or 7 listings in Georgetown right now. We're talking about Georgetown, and the economy's still good. We've definitely seen a shift in the market, but it needed to shift a little bit. It needed to slow down. It was kind of crazy. So anyways, I think that's a long answer to a short question, but finding the thing, in the pivot. And I just want to tell everybody, there are times in life that you're going to need to pivot. And I pivoted during when there was so much uncertainty. I didn't even know how it would end up, but I took action. And so everybody out there, if you're sitting in a dark season right now, it doesn't have to be a pandemic, but if you're sitting in a season of like, I don't know what to do, I'm just going to tell you, take action. It may not even be what you end up doing, but by taking the action, for me, I wasn't thinking about toilet paper and food shortages. I was thinking about how I'm going to pass my real estate test.